Richard Haas, president of the Council on Foreign Relations, joins me now to talk about this breaking news story. The Defense Department has said that the taunts from Kim Jong-un are nothing more than warmongering rhetoric, Richard, but I don't know if national security officials behind closed doors are considering this all just to be rhetoric. How serious do you take what's going on in North Korea right now?
Well, Jake, I think it's most likely to be rhetoric, or more, use the real word, bluster. On the other hand, there's probably a 10% chance that it's not. And that's the reason you see things like B-2 aircraft and now ships heading towards the region. It's a way of signaling the North Koreans. It's a way of signaling the Chinese that we take this talk and these threats seriously. It's also a way of reassuring our allies, both in Seoul as well as in Tokyo.
Last week on this program, the former Secretary of Defense, William Cohen, said that if the most likely thing that would happen if there were a military confrontation, some sort of shelling by North Korea of South Korea, then ultimately South Korea would respond and the U.S. would respond, and he said ultimately that would result in the destruction of the North. Kim Jong-un must know that. So why is he doing what he's doing?
Well, he's trying to consolidate his position. He's what, 28, 29 years old? There's obviously some skepticism about him. He has 4 stars on his shoulder, but that doesn't make you a serious general. It's more out of Gilbert and Sullivan. So I think he's trying to gain attention and gain strength at home. The problem for him is, what does he do to declare victory? Can he get away with simply rhetoric, or does he need to do something? And if, as you suggest, he does do something, this time the South Koreans will not turn the other cheek. They will respond. And then the question is, can you keep it at that? Or do you then enter a situation where it essentially escalates, bringing in the United States? And I would simply say, if I were representing the administration, I would pass the message privately, both to China, which is North Korea's most important benefactor, and to North Korea, that if this escalates to a war, this will be the last war in the Korean Peninsula, because the United States would not stop until all of Korea is unified under the South. Hopefully that would deter them from starting anything in the first place.
And lastly, let's talk about the role that China could play in getting this guy under wraps. Both Moscow and Beijing are telling Kim Jong-un to cool it. Would sanctions be enough to put his ego in check?
Well, what the Chinese can do is more than sanctions. Probably 2/3 of the fuel and goods transiting in and out of North Korea go across Chinese territory. If suddenly the border guards there, the customs officials, developed a case of the flu, and the border was shut down for a couple of days, I think North Korea would get the message loud and clear. The Chinese, however, are often reluctant to use all the influence they have, because they're scared of undermining their traditional ally. But they are key. Quite honestly, what happens in Beijing is at least as important, if not more important right now, than what happens in Pyongyang.
And lastly, Richard, a report out today said the United States and South Korea are beefing up their cyber war readiness, either to hit North Korea or to defend against an attack. Would that be more effective than troops as far as deterrent goes?
I'm not sure it's more effective, but it's certainly one of the ways that if the North Koreans do something, we can hurt them, or conceivably even send a message to China. So it's part of the arsenal now. It's quite interesting, Jake. This is the brave new world of contemporary warfare, and we have the traditional tools of war, but now cyber's entered into it. So North Korea, what happens on the peninsula, could actually turn out to be both a dangerous and an interesting case study.
All right, Richard Haas, president of the Council on Foreign Relations.